Chapter 1. The hook. Somewhere in Tokyo right now, a person is handing over their phone, their wallet, their ID, and paying for the privilege of being nobody. No name. No job title. No social media. Just gone. And the waiting list to do this has over 800 people on it. But to understand why hundreds of people are literally paying to erase their own identity for a few hours, you need to understand what drove them there in the first place. In this video, we're going to look at 3 things. First, the bizarre pressure cooker that is Japanese social identity, and why it breaks people in ways that are hard to explain. Second, the actual experience inside this room, what people do there, what the rules are, and what happens when you forget the rules. And third, the part 1 saved for the end, the unexpected thing that most people walk away feeling, which almost nobody talks about online. Stick around. This one gets strange. Chapter 2. The weight of a name in Japan. In most countries, your name is just your name. But in Japan, your name is the opening move in a very complex social chess game. The moment you meet someone in a Japanese professional context, a cascade of calculations begins instantly. How old are they? What company? What rank? Are they above me, below me, or equal? And crucially, which version of myself do I present right now? Japanese has at least 4 completely different ways to say the word I, and which one you use signals your entire social position in a conversation. There's a word in Japanese, taitmei, which roughly means the public face you show the world. The socially acceptable surface version of yourself. And then there's han, your actual true feelings and desires, which are kept private, often buried so deep that even you start to lose track of them. For many Japanese adults, especially in cities like Tokyo, the gap between those 2 selves grows enormous over years of navigating work, family expectations, and social obligations. And now here's the strange part, and stay with me because this connects directly to that room. Researchers studying urban stress in Japan have noted something unusual. It's not the hard work itself that burns people out fastest. It's the constant performance of identity. The exhausting act of always being the correct version of yourself for whoever is watching. And that, right there, is exactly what that room in Tokyo is designed to temporarily dissolve. Chapter 3. What actually happens in the room. The space is called an anonymous experience room, though different versions of this concept have appeared in Tokyo under slightly different names and formats. The core rules are always roughly the same. And this is where it gets genuinely strange. When you enter, you surrender everything that identifies you. Phone, watch, wallet. Any branded clothing gets covered or changed. Some versions even give you a plain one-color outfit to wear inside. You are assigned a number. Not a cute number. A random number. You are literally reduced to a digit. For the next 2 to 4 hours, depending on which experience you book, nobody in that space knows your name, your job, your age, or your background. And here's the part that surprises most people who read about this: it's not silent. It's not a meditation retreat. People talk. They play simple games provided in the room. They eat snacks. They draw on paper. Some versions have musical instruments, basic ones that don't require skill. The point is not silence. The point is that every interaction you have in that room is completely untainted by your status, your history, or your reputation. You can be curious about something you'd normally be too proud to ask about, because nobody knows you're the kind of person who should already know. You can laugh at something you'd normally suppress, because there's no social image to protect. And now, I promised you there was something even stranger found in these rooms. Here it is. Operators of these experiences report that a significant portion of participants cry. Not from sadness. From relief. When you take away the performance, something underneath the performance wakes up. Chapter 4. The waiting list and who is on IT. So who are the 800 people waiting for their turn to be nobody? The breakdown might surprise you. It's not just burned-out salarymen in their 40s, although yes, they're absolutely on the list. According to operators and journalists who have profiled these experiences, the largest single group is young professionals in their late 20s to mid-30s. People who grew up entirely online, where every action creates a permanent record. Every post, every like, every comment is data that follows you. For that generation, the concept of being truly unobserved, even briefly, is genuinely novel. The second largest group is women in corporate roles, particularly those navigating the specific double pressure of Japanese workplace culture, where gender expectations layer on top of hierarchy expectations. And the third group is people who have recently gone through major identity transitions, divorce, job loss, moving cities, retirement. People for whom the old version of their name has become a kind of weight rather than a foundation. If this is the kind of genuinely strange, genuinely human story you want more of, this channel is exactly where you'll find it. Subscribing takes 2 seconds and it keeps these stories coming. Now, let's talk about what happens when someone breaks the rules. Chapter 5. The rules and what happens when you break them. The most commonly broken rule, by a wide margin, is name dropping. Someone forgets, or gets comfortable, and says their job title or company name in conversation. What happens next is fascinating from a social psychology perspective. The other participants in the room, people who have never met, collectively and gently redirect the conversation away. Not with embarrassment. Almost protectively. As if the room itself has a shared interest in maintaining the anonymity that everyone paid to experience. The social contract becomes the most powerful rule. One journalist who participated described it as the most cooperative social space she had ever been in. More cooperative than a work meeting. More cooperative than a dinner party. Because when status is removed, the need to compete is removed with it. And what fills that vacuum, the space where competition used to be, is genuine curiosity. People ask each other questions they would never ask in a normal social setting. Not because the questions are inappropriate, but because in a normal setting, the answer would immediately slot the person into a social category. In the room, there are no categories to slot into. So the questions become genuinely open. And the answers become genuinely honest. Operators say some participants exchange contact information afterward, on the outside, and form real friendships. Built on a foundation of having known each other as pure people first, and named social actors second. Chapter 6. Why this only makes sense in Japan, and why it might spread. You might be wondering, could this exist anywhere else? And that's actually a really interesting question. These kinds of anonymous experience spaces have appeared in limited forms in South Korea and in some European cities, but they haven't developed the same cultural weight. And the reason probably comes back to something specific about how identity functions in Japan versus elsewhere. In many Western contexts, identity is understood as something internal, your authentic self that you express outward. In Japan, identity is much more relational. It exists primarily in the space between you and the people around you. It's defined by relationships, obligations, and roles. Which means removing those relationships temporarily doesn't just feel different, it creates a fundamentally different kind of self. And here's what nobody tells you about these experiences, the part one mentioned at the very beginning. The majority of participants, according to follow-up surveys, say the experience made them better at being themselves in their regular life afterward. Not because they wanted to be nobody permanently, but because spending a few hours as nobody reminded them that the somebody they usually are is actually a choice. A choice they make every morning. And choices can be remade. That's not a weird fact about Japan. That's something genuinely universal that Japan found a very specific, very Japanese way to explore. Chapter 7. Conclusion and tease. So let's bring it back to where we started. 800 people on a waiting list to temporarily forget their name. It sounds bizarre. And honestly, it is bizarre. This channel is called Bizarre Japan for a reason. But strange things in Japan have a habit of pointing at very real human needs that the rest of the world is only starting to name. The need for a break from the performance of being yourself. The need to be seen without your resume. The need to just exist, for a couple of hours, without any of the social math. Japan built a room for that. And 800 people are waiting in line to use it. If you found this one interesting, subscribe, because next week we're going inside Japan's underground network of listening cafes, where strangers pay by the hour just to talk to someone who is contractually obligated to care what you say. No judgment. No advice. Just listening. And it's one of the fastest growing industries in the country. We'll see you in that room.